Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you're new. So today's video, as you can tell from the title, is going to be my March wrap up. I'm a little bit late filming this. I don't know, I just haven't been wanting to film it for some reason. I don't know why, but you know, I'm not going to sit cross-legged for the whole of the video because that's just going to be so uncomfortable. So yes, anyway, March in terms of reading was a little bit all over the place. I've got 5 books to talk about, but I actually read 4 because one of them is a DNF. I feel like this year I am just saying yes to DNFing more. I think I always felt in my mind that I couldn't DNF a book because I've got the kind of personality trait where if I kind of start something, I have to finish it. But sometimes all these books aren't for everybody. So anyway, I'm digressing. Yeah, so I have 5 books to talk about. Hello, editor Nicole here. Just wanted to pop in and explain that this video format is a little bit different. I filmed my March wrap up a couple of weeks back. I've just been editing it and I just didn't really like how the way it turned out. I wasn't really concise and I didn't really summarize my thoughts in the books very well. So I decided to use the footage because I really just couldn't be bothered to refilm it and just do a voiceover instead. So this might not be a video that is best to watch. It might be something which you want to listen to whilst walking or doing some chores or when you're working or whatever, if you're allowed to. So yeah, it's a bit more geared up to your ears rather than visual, because I think the difference between the footage and the voiceover might be a little jarring for some people. So yeah, it's best to just listen instead. Oh, don't mind my hair as well. This is a week-old twist out, which I need to wash my hair today, so I'll plan on doing that. But yeah, I hope you enjoy regardless anyway, and yeah, I'll let you get back to the video. So the first book I read in March was Malma Station by Alex Shulman, and I gave this book 3.5 stars. So we're joined on board to Malma Station, where we follow the journeys of 3 different characters and their journeys across several decades, making their way to, yep, you guessed it, Malma Station. So I thought this was a deeply tragic yet touching story about family secrets, dysfunctional families, mental health, and also confronting childhood trauma and how this affects adulthood. This book was written really, really well. I really liked the prose and it kept me engaged right up until the last page, which is a bonus. The story deals with love, pain and survival. Just some downers. I wasn't super connected to the characters, and in some areas it did kind of leave me wanting a little bit more. However, I still really did enjoy it and I would really, really recommend it. It's a great story to get lost into, and most likely, you know, on a train. But I would most likely read another novel from Shulman again. I do have his other novel, The Survivors, on my TBR, so I would very much like to read that next from him. This book was kind of gifted to me from Little Brown and Fleet, so thank you so much for sending me a copy. The next book I read in March was Honey and Spice by Balu Babalola, and I gave this a 3.5 stars, even though it could be bumped up for 4. I really, really, really did enjoy this. So Honey and Spice is a fake dating romance book set at university. We follow Kiki Banjo, who's a student at Whitewell College that hosts her own radio show giving women advice on self-worth and not entertaining F-boys, essentially, until Malachi Koredi turns up on campus and he literally just turns her world upside down, and her advice completely goes out of the window when they decide to start, you guessed it, a fake dating relationship. So this book was really, really well written. It was so culturally rich and diverse with so many pop culture references, beautiful descriptions of West African food and clothing. Balu Babalola really, really activated all of my senses whilst reading this book by her beautiful descriptions of the amazing African fusion food and the amazing, beautiful Ankara, the clothes and, you know, the fabrics and stuff. So it helped me immerse myself into this story. So I commend her writing for that. The characters had so much depth to them, and I love how it explored really important topics such as mental health within the Black community, family dynamics and family illness. So the not so good things, what I didn't like was that there were so many words, and it could have been a lot shorter. I think the first few chapters could have really been more short and concise. It was 400 plus pages, which I think was just a little bit too long for this type of story. It also reminded me of a little bit of Dear White People, like the setting, because I believe the main protagonist in that series has a radio show as well. Kind of reminded me of that a little bit, which I didn't
particularly like that show. Maybe I watched the first episode or two and I didn't really enjoy it. But anyways, regardless of that, I thought this was a really cute book. I'm not mad at it. And if you watch my tier ranking video with book boyfriends, you will know Malachi is firmly on my book boyfriend list for sure. I absolutely adore him, and I would love a sequel of this book just to see what happens next with Malachi and Kiki, because I was really invested in their love story. So yeah, loved that one. Following on, the next story I read in March was Open Water by Caleb Azuma Nelson, and I gave this a 3 stars. So this is a black love story at its core, albeit it's told in a second person narrative, and it centres around 2 black artists in southeast London who happen to become best friends and fall in love, and we watch their relationship develop over time whilst also exploring what it means to be a black British male and the trauma that comes along with it. There's no doubt in my mind that this is a really, really vulnerable yet poignant love story full of strength, pain, loss and healing. The themes, like I said, that are explored are masculinity, race, diaspora, systemic discrimination and knife crime throughout, the UK and just in general. Caleb really, really does have a gift in transporting you to the scene and just activating all the senses, kind of like Baloo Babalola. This book was incredibly descriptive. It was almost like spoken word, incredibly lyrical. I don't usually tend to like books like this because I'm not a big poetry fan. And I also think this isn't a book to rush through. You really have to savor it. Even though it's a very short novella, it's like 200 plus pages. You think you read it in an afternoon, but it did take me a couple of days to finish it because it is quite intense. I'm really shocked that this was his debut. It's a beautiful piece of literature, but just some downers. I did get a little lost in my mind following the story a couple of times because it was very, very lyrical, and I do struggle with reading that sometimes. However, Caleb's moving lines did bring my attention back, luckily. I think if you really love poetry, then this one is for you. As I said, I'm not a massive poetry fan. That's why it didn't get a high rating for me, but 3 stars is still good. I would still highly recommend it. But yeah, I didn't enjoy it, but it is one that I could really, really appreciate. The next book I read in March is The Delegate Dream Department Store by Lee Mia. And unfortunately, I DNF'd this book, but because I got quite a way through, I'd say like 65%, I did give it a rating of 2 stars. So this wasn't my favourite. This book actually caught my eye on Goodreads, and I thought it was quite an interesting concept. So this is set in a world where they have a dream department store. Humans and animals can come in and buy their dreams when they fall asleep, and they pay with the emotions that they have from the dream when they wake up. So it's really, really cool. And we follow a recent graduate, Penny, who starts working at the department store. I think this book is like a cozy fantasy, and it has magical realism, which is all new to me. I've never really read from this genre before. Yeah, I'm not really a fan of it. I think that's why I had to DNF it. I know I previously started reading Letters to Send a couple of months back, and that also has magical realism in it, and I just don't really like it. So I was just a little bit put off by it. It also doesn't have much of a plot, and I believe, it's meant to be a very cozy and comforting book, but it was just so incredibly slow paced. Like I said, yeah, there wasn't much of a plot, so it just wasn't for me, unfortunately. I know so many people have loved this book and millions of copies have been sold, and it's a translated book as well. So it's very popular, but just wasn't my cup of tea. So yeah, amazing concept, but just didn't really like how it was written, and I didn't really think it was going anywhere. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on it. The next book I read was the true standout book that I read in the month of March, and that was Sorrow and Bliss by Meg Mason. Gave this a 5 star in the first chapter. This was an astonishing novel, and I loved it so dearly. As I said, I knew from the first chapter that this was going to be a 5-star read. I could not put this book down at all. This is a must read for lovers of lit fiction. So in this book, we follow Martha and her lifelong journey of mental illness over the decades. So this is a really up close and personal look at mental illness and how it impacts a person and the people closest to them, family, friends. It's just incredibly written. It's witty, it's poignant, it's sharp and harrowing in some places. It's just it's a real page turner. It covers themes of family dynamics, grief, generational trauma, motherhood, marriage, of course, mental illness, and being child-free and childless, which was really important topics and something which I haven't really read too much on before. So I really appreciated that. How Meg Mason wrote the mental illness was incredible. I felt like I was getting whiplash. Just the tumultuous and debilitating symptoms of mental illness is really depicted and captured so well. It ebbed and flowed throughout, as mental health usually does throughout life, and I commend Meg Mason on her impeccable ability to write so beautifully. There were so many layers, and I really felt like I just was left with wanting more every time I set the book down for the evening. I finished it in about 3 or 4 days, which is unheard of for me for a literary fiction book. So it was just so incredible. Whilst I was reading, I just went through all the emotions. My heart sank, it fluttered, my stomach dropped, I laughed, and almost came close to tears. I really connected to Martha and Patrick and this flawless story. Hands down, this is one of the top books I have read for this year, and you have to, if you haven't read it, you have to read it. If you're a fan of like Cocamellas, I think you would really like this book. If I could give it 10 stars, I would. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And yeah, like I said, it's definitely going in my 2024 reading wrap up of the best books I've read this year for sure. And last but certainly not least, we have The Co-op by Tara Hewitt, and I gave this 3 stars. So this book follows the perspectives of Deacon and Laren, and they first embarked on a steamy friends with benefits relationship in their teens one summer, and then we follow them 8 years later after the death of their grandmothers, who were in a relationship with each other. They're faced with the task of selling their grandmother's homes as they've been left to them. So we know that Laren has the money to fix the homes, but the homes are like dilapidated. So Laren has the money to fix the homes, but she can't access it in funds until she's married. And Deacon has the tools and the trade skills to fix the property, but he has no money to do it. So what do? I'll give you 2 seconds. Yes, decide to get married. So it's marriage of convenience. So this is your typical fast-paced, fluffy romance, but with a grumpy heroine. As I said, marriage of convenience and second chance with some spice in there. It covers themes of family dynamics, infidelity, emotional abuse, loss and grief. I think without this, it really would have lacked the depth that it needed to carry the story through. I wasn't entirely invested in the characters. Like, I didn't fall in love with the male character. He's definitely not going on my book boyfriend list, if I'm honest with you. It was an enjoyable read. I read it in 2 days because it was quite easy. I liked the concept of them renovating this property together. It had quite a lot of angst and it had spice, which was it was written well. I think it's a good book to get you out of a slump. It wasn't my favourite. It was all right, but I'm not going to make a song and dance about it. So yeah, 3 stars. And this book was kindly gifted to me by Little Brown as well. So thank you so much for giving me a copy. That is it. That is the reading wrap up. That is the wrap up for the month. Here we have. So I did read quite a few, 5 books. That's not too bad, to be fair. That's pretty good going. So yeah, have you read any of these? I'd love to hear anybody, if anyone's read Summer and Bliss. I really want to, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, if you liked it, if you didn't. Also any of these as well, if you have read. Please do let me know. Again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you just so much for all the kind comments I've had lately as well. I've just been feeling really grateful for this community and this channel, and just to speak to you guys and just to just build like a friendship with you guys and stuff. It's been really nice. You've all been so supportive and sweet, and I can't thank you enough. And thanks for subscribing and everything. I still have to pinch myself that this is real, and yeah, it's just really bizarre. Oh, also, just before I go, I was thinking of maybe adding TV shows onto the wrap up as well, just because I do watch quite a few shows. So maybe just doing a quick little
little 2-minute like breakdown of what shows I've watched. I might do that for April because I just recently watched Scoop and oh my god, fantastic, loved it. So yeah, let me know if you want me to add that, or I don't know, I might just add it anyway. But yeah, okay then, well, I'm gonna go now. I'll speak to you guys in the next one.